Welcome to Bad Dog Agility, a podcast helping you reach all of your dog agility goals. Whether it's competing under the bright lights of the televised finals at Westminster or successfully navigating a homemade course in your own backyard, we'll bring you training tips, interviews, and news about the great sport of dog agility. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
The show starts with your hosts, Jennifer, Esteban, and Sarah.
I'm Jennifer.
I'm Esteban.
And I'm Sarah, and this is episode 345. Today's podcast is brought to you by St. Rocco's Treats.
It's Grace from Hounds of Hack.
It's Amber from American Canine Country.
It's Cynthia from CH Dog Agility.
It's Lindsay from Y2 Canines.
And we love using St. Rocco's Treats
as our high value reward.
And you will too. Visit us at stroccostreats.shop and use the code BD30 for 30% off your first order. Enjoy the attention-grabbing flavor and easy-to-break texture that Grace, Amber, Cynthia, Lindsay, and so many others love about St. Rocco's Treats. Again, use the code BD30 for 30% off. Thank you.
And you can find a link to St. Rocco's Treats on the show notes page. Today, we're going to be talking about the AKC Premier Cup. This is a invite-only event. It's been going on. This is the 5th year. And Jennifer, you were there. So Jennifer is going to be our resident experts on all things Premier Cup. So let's start, Jennifer. What do we know about how you get an invite to the Premier Cup?
Well, first, I think we should say congratulations to Jennifer.
Sure. All right, let's start with congrats. So first of all, this is the 5th event. And before the event, Jen posted the coolest statistic. Tell us a little bit about your history with this particular event, Jen.
Yeah, this event's very special to me. I don't know why. Well, I'm about to tell you why, I guess. This is the 5th AKC Premier Cup, but it's not the 5th consecutive year. So the first one was in 2019, and it was with that watch brand Longines. So they came in and they were a sponsor for the event, and it was very new. It was new to everybody. It was new to AKC. It was new to the exhibitors. We weren't really sure what to expect. Sarah, I know you were there. You came out there with me. It was in New York. And it was kind of this idea of being paired with a horse event. And then 2020 COVID hit. So there was no Premier Cup in 2020. And then we resumed it in 21, 22, 23. And then here we are in 24. And I have been invited every year. And that's really cool for me. Not only have I been invited, but I've been invited with multiple dogs on some of the years. But the first 4 years, not only was I invited, but I actually was able to win the 16-inch division all 4 years with 4 different dogs. So in 2019, we won the 16-inch class with Pink. And then in 21, Swift. On to 22 was Lucky. 23 was B. And this year we did not take the win, but we had an absolutely magical run. One of those runs that just gives you goosebumps, and finished in 2nd place in the 16-inch class. So it's just such a cool event to be able to go every year, to get an invite. I should start with that, to get an invite, and then to be able to go, and then to have a good performance, make finals, and then have great performances, and to have done it with a bunch of dogs. So prior to the event, I made a little post just talking about I had been the only 16-inch winner up to that point. And very excitedly got to watch Jada kick butt in the 16-inch class with her Border Collie Zula, who's on fire this year. She won AKC Nationals in the 16-inch class as well. It was really cool to watch her run, watch her win, stand right next to her. Got to kind of share the podium with her at AKC Nationals as well, because she won and we took 3rd. So a really remarkable team. But I'm proud of, B and my history with the event. And in the past, the winner and 2nd place from the previous year get an invite. And so because B got it. So because B got 2nd place, fingers crossed that they keep up that tradition. So that will guarantee us an invite for next year. But to answer your original question of what we know about invites, I don't know that we know, right? So it's sort of been different every year. I know the very, very first year, it was truly invite by AKC, not based on results. All of the AWC team members got invited on that first year, along with some other big winners through AKC events. And then it seems like each year it's slightly different. I believe that most of it is coming from AKC Nationals results AKC Invitational results and the previous year's results. So like I said, the previous year's first and second place have always gotten an invite in the past. The winners at AKC Nationals get an actual like invite and voucher in their awards. So when B got third, when I got my trophy and my ribbon, I got an invite there. They pull a little bit from the results of the premier class at AKC Nationals. So I think, the winners or some of the top placements come in, and then same thing with Invitational. And then very similar to the format at Invitational and at Westminster, preferred dogs are eligible. Preferred dogs can get invites. They will jump their preferred height, but then they will be scored with their actual jump height. So a dog who jumps preferred 12 inches will run 12 inches, but be scored with the 16-inch dog. So we have the preferred dogs added in there as well. And then it's a total of 20 dogs per jump height that they have kept true to every year. So it's a maximum of 100 dogs with 20 dogs from each of the 5 jump heights.
All right. Super interesting. And then the structure of the event is one jumper's course, obviously premier. That's why it's called the Premier Cup. These are all premier courses in terms of course design style. So one jumper's premier, one standard premier, and then based on the combined results of those 2 classes, you have the finals class or the final event in the evening. And how many dogs make it into the finals?
So the premium says 50%, which if you have 20 dogs should be 10, but they actually do 10 no matter what. So this year in the 16-inch class, we had 3 dogs absent. So only 17 dogs were competing, but they still took 10 to the finals. And I think some of that has to do with the broadcasting. So it is one of the events that AKC has paired with ESPN to broadcast. So in their scheduling and in their timeline, they allot for the 10. So the odds of making finals are higher than most events. And the partnership with ESPN and the broadcasting has not occurred every year. That's something that's relatively new. I know the very first year that we did it, there was no broadcasting or ESPN, but that is something that they do now.
I think it was AKC TV that first year.
That would
TV.
make sense. Yeah.
Okay, so now it's on ESPN, and you got to talk to some of the ESPN people while you were there. So dish.
Yeah, so the ESPN crew tends to be the same from event to event. So, because I always go to nationals and I've been going to the Invitational the last couple of years and the Premier Cup, I've gotten to know some of them. We see Terry Simons doing the commentary at most of these events, including Westminster. So I kind of talk to them all a little bit about, trying to get the scoop. Where's the location next year? Do you like this site? Do you not like this site? How's the broadcasting going? And this year, from my understanding, ESPN has the primary say on the location of where the Premier Cup is held. So it's not exclusive to AKC's call. The last 2 years, it was in Columbus, which was great for me. It was like 30 minutes from home. This year it was in Blaine, Minnesota at a sports facility. And I think, a big part of it is they want the outdoor. So you're not going to see it indoor. They want outdoor. They want the good camera views, the big feel, better lighting. But I will say that this year's facility was less exciting, special, climatic than what we've had in the past, in my opinion. I felt like I was just sort of at a high school soccer field. There was not stadium or stands except on the one side, where last year at the Crew Stadium, we were at an MLS soccer stadium. I mean, it was 360 around were stands and the Jumbotron, and it felt very big. Even though the stands weren't really filled, it felt big. And then we had a lot of locals that came in the evening. This year, not only did it not feel very big, there was very, very, very few spectators, even for the finals. And I don't know if that's something where it's on like AKC and ESPN to advertise to the locals, or it just had to do with the agility community in that area. I know being close to Columbus, I did a huge push here in Columbus to let people know that they could come and watch. The surface was good. I would say the surface was pretty comparable to last year. It was the soccer turf, but with the rubber pellets. Mm-hmm. So not the carpet kind. It had the rubber pellets in it, where in past years we've had, like the last 2 years, it was soccer turf, but it had like a cork or coconut shell infill. In talking with the television crew, one of the concerns when they did their walkthrough was going to be the temperature of the turf. So when they did their walkthrough, they would put their hands on the turf and try to feel how warm it was. And that was a concern that they had with this site, is that because it was the black rubber, as opposed to the Crew being kind of the cork and being lighter in color and texture, that it was going to be really hot. But we did not have warm temperatures in Minnesota. It actually was quite cool for a big part of the day. It was sunny, but it was cool. And then the big factor that we had this year, and this is kind of what happens when you go outside, is the wind. The wind played a huge role in handling, scoring courses this year, with it being so windy at the event.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw several posts about that. And did it cause delays? I heard there were like some delays in some spots and things like that.
The problem that we were having with the wind is it was so strong, it was blowing equipment over. So in the walkthroughs, it was blowing stuff over so much that they went around, and the best I could tell from watching them, they were using double-sided tape to tape the uprights to the ground, so that the uprights would not fall over. But this did not prevent bars from falling over.
Right.
On one of my runs in the prelims, I was standing on the start line. The person in front of me was putting their leash on. And so, we're all just kind of standing, sort of staring at them, sort of staring at me. And the first jump just blows over the bars, not the uprights.
Right.
And they all just kind of were like, and I was like, okay, I guess we set that. And they would come back and set the bars. Basically what they briefed us, and this happened in the finals as well, and it did come into play a bit, was if you're running the course and you get to an obstacle, or specifically a jump, and the bar has already fallen down because of the wind, proceed as normal. As long as your dog goes over the bar or between the uprights, just keep going and it will not be scored against you. So there was some issues with regard to bars falling down, dogs having to go through uprights. I'm also not convinced that there wasn't some like verbal issues with some of the dogs hearing. I saw some dogs do some funny things out of tunnels, multiple dogs, not even just one dog, where I think they get in the tunnel. And if you imagine like a wind tunnel, like it gets loud. And there were at least 2 occasions I can recall that I wondered if the dog wasn't sure what the handler was saying or where the handler was coming out of a tunnel.
Right.
And then when they were setting up for finals, they do a lot of like decorative stuff, right? They put ferns out, they put these solid panels. It was just all over the place. At one point they said, oh, you guys can go look at the finals course because it's in a separate ring. And we went over there and nobody knew the course because the cones were everywhere. They were like round, like almost like buckets upside down. So they had flipped over and were rolling all over the place. So at one point we guessed what the course was, went to lunch because there's a big like 3-hour delay in the middle of the event. So we left and went to lunch and came back, and we had totally guessed wrong. I mean, we had the weed poles going the entire opposite direction from what we thought. So I don't know if it actually caused any delays. From my end, it didn't seem to affect me, but it would be a problem, I guess, small delays where they had to have somebody run out and set a bar that had blown over or something.
Right. That's so crazy. So I'm looking here at the course maps as well. So same judge for all 3 courses. Did she design all 3 or did they? Yeah. Okay.
My understanding is she designed and judged. So they do it a little bit interesting because there's only one ring running at a time, but they do the prelims in a separate ring than finals. So the finals ring, very similar to how they did with AKC Nationals the year it was in Ocala. The finals ring was set up all week and in a separate building. So it was in a separate like area, and it was all the big formal ESPN, the big stuff. And then the prelims were just like a normal ring and it was down a bit. So we did jumpers first. Everybody walks and runs. Then they do a course build, and then standard, we walk and run. And then regardless of what time the prelims are done, they do not start anything in the finals ring until 5 o'clock. So we had briefing at 4 o'clock. So we finished up around 1 o'clock. And then had that 3-hour break where there was nothing happening or going on. So my understanding is that she did design them all. I assume so, but it was the same judge for all 3 courses.
Awesome. And so what did you think about the courses? I watched your runs and I thought, I mean, obviously you running them, it looked beautiful, but it had like really, really nice flow. I felt like it was a well put together course. Is that how it felt?
I would say that the finals course specifically, I actually thought was easier than what I was prepared for, but that's not to say that it was easy. I actually thought it was a very nice course. It had great distances. I mean, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, it will air on ESPN July 28th. It had some great distances, some really good flow. The one thing, and I'll come back and talk about it in a bit, but I did not have to do a single front cross in finals. And if you know me, I love my front crosses. So it was very flowy. It wasn't twisty, turny, crank the dogs down. So it wasn't easy. It was just easier than I was prepared for, having studied Michelle's courses a lot up to that point. as far as the courses as a whole, I did the thing that I will say is I studied Michelle's courses a lot. I studied her courses and prepped for this Premier Cup, probably more than any other Premier Cup. And some of the things that I consider her like trademark moves or things she does a lot, she didn't do. So I'm like, man, I did all this prep and we didn't see the things that I thought we would see. But I thought the courses were good. The finals course was definitely like the smoothest and the most open, but I did feel like all of the courses presented what I would expect for a Premier Cup that is designed to mimic the Premier classes for AKC.
Awesome.
So going back to the finals course and kind of the no front crosses, the other little story there is I travel to most of these big events with my best friend, Abby Beasley. Those of you that know me or follow the podcast have probably heard me mention her name. Well, less than 2 weeks before the event, she was training for EO outside and fell in a hole, twisted her ankle, ended up on crutches. So here we have this trip planned and basically about 4 days before we were supposed to go, she realized like, it's not looking good for my ankle to be better. We better start practicing to see if her dog would run for me. Now her dog is a half sibling to B. So we're best friends. We travel. Well, Friday was a little rocky. We were at a local show. Some of the runs she ran for me and some of the runs that she didn't run for me. So we weren't sure what was going to happen when we got to Minnesota. And our plan was to just kind of take it run by run. And the first course, the jumpers course, was just way too twisty turny. Abby walked it and was like, there's too much twisting and turning and cutting and crosses that needed to happen and sprinting. She's like, you're going to have to do her. My ankle can't hold up. And then she ran for me and got second place. So we're like, oh, okay, this is good. Then we go to standard and we were on the fence. And Abby's like, I think I got one run in me. But the problem is if I use it up in standard and then she makes finals, then what? Because once she ran for Abby, she probably was not going to switch back to me.
Right.
She loves agility with her mom. She doesn't love agility enough to run with anybody. B is the least loyal dog. Anybody can take her and run her and she would be fine. But so I did her in standard and got her around that clean as well. But then when we walked the finals course, and we kind of looked at each other and we're like, we don't have to do any fronts. Abby's like, I think I can do this. I can do this with all rears and blinds. And if you think about like the twisting of an ankle, there's not a lot of twisting and happening on rears and blinds. You're kind of, running more straight line-ish. And so she was able to actually take her dog back to finals and run her own dog in finals, which was a huge stress reliever for me, let me tell you, but also really exciting that she got to run her own dog. So even though she didn't do any front crosses because of her ankle, I had no limitations. And even I didn't do any front crosses. So just a testament to kind of the flow of the finals course, but also a fun little story. If anybody said, I thought Jenn ran that dog in prelims. I did run the dog in prelims and then handed her back over for finals. So that was kind of a new experience for me.
So then what happened in standard? You skipped over that part.
Well, I ran her and we were clean.
All right. And clean. Nice.
We have a few screenshots where the dog was over a jump and looking behind going, where's mom?
Oh.
But, and I would certainly say her times were not anywhere close to what she would have been for her mom, but she did run for me. And at the end of the run, there was a little moment where I was trying to put her on leash where she started to go, wait a minute, you're not my mom. But she didn't run out of the ring. No rules
Stranger
were broken.
danger.
But yeah, she was like, where's mom? Where's mom? Where's mom? So we got through, but I was happy to hand her over for finals, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe you can put a link to Jennifer's finals run.
Oh, absolutely.
It was remarkable.
It was awesome. I'm so proud of it. It was not a win. It was far from a win. I think we were over a second off the win. And it was one of those runs that just for me was absolutely magical. Like I've had wins that I'm not even as proud of as that run. And B just was spot on. I mean, I've watched the run over and over and over, and there's nothing that I want to change. There's not a single place where she added a stride that I didn't want. There wasn't a single spot where she went wider on a turn. There were some spots that teams were having some, kind of that gasp moment where you were a little worried. I would argue that even Jada had a few moments where I went, oh my gosh, okay, all right, get it back up. Oh, that's a little bit of a wide turn. I mean, she beat me, and B's run was just absolutely magical. I'm so proud of her and so proud of that run because we had to do rear crosses. And if you know me, they're scary for me. And she had
Right.
2 absolutely beautiful rear crosses that I'm very proud of. So it was a really good
a
event.
full wrap. It was
Right.
after the dog walk, jump after the dog walk, full wrap, beautifully executed.
It was the first thing I said after the run was I was like, ooh, that turn after the dog walk, gorgeous.
It was so good. It was so good. I did it at the warm-up jump a lot because I was like, oh, okay. And she did it so well at the warm-up jump. And then as I ran the course, I actually was far enough ahead. I could have done a blind. And in the moment, I'm running down the dog walk and I'm going, I could do the blind. And I went, no, she warmed up this skill perfect. She warmed it up so good. I'm going to commit to it because I didn't warm up the blind.
Right.
And I'm just going to do it. And then when she did it perfectly, I was like, oh, thank goodness I was confirmed in my decision in the moment. But all of that went through my head in the second and a half it took her to do the dog walk.
Well, now I'm going to have to watch it again and see if I can see a little hitch in your step where you decide, wait,
yeah.
No,
yeah. A couple dogs before me, Bonnie had run Edward. I told her about this after she made the blind. And I was thinking about her. I was running going, Bonnie made the blind. I'm now ahead. I can do the blind. And I went, no, you practice the rear at the warm-up jump, commit to the rear cross, just make it happen. So it was a good event. I did try to sneak out information on maybe where it would be held next year. They have no idea. They have no idea. They didn't give me, or they alluded to the fact that they have no idea. But the format and everything I thought ran very similar to past years. There was no big earth-shattering change. AKC does a great job with it. They kind of have it down. 5 years, they kind of know how it's going to work, what it's going to do. We still don't quite know how invites are done. I do know that this year they made sure to have 1 junior handler per height as well.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if the junior handler was pulled at random. I'm suspecting that the junior handler might have been the winner from the junior invitational in December.
Right.
And I think that was something that was new. I don't know that they've had a junior handler in every height in the past. I also know that ESPN was doing a little bit of a junior handler spotlight. Mm-hmm. So they did some interviews and some stuff. And I suspect when we see the broadcasting, there'll be an emphasis on the various juniors that made finals and interviews and stuff. So yeah, it seems like they've kind of got it down in terms of the format and how they like doing it. It is a lot for a one-day event. That's kind of the biggest thing that a lot of the competitors say is, you're traveling. I know one person traveled 18 hours one way for what could have been 2 runs. Prelim jumpers, prelim standard, and by 1:00 they're over. You're on site for 4 hours, or you're in the city for 18 hours for an 18-hour drive and an 18-hour drive home. But for me personally, given the demands that agility has on our schedule these days, with more and more big events and these events getting longer and everything, I appreciate a one-day event because I can fit it in easier. So for me, I appreciate it, but I've had pretty easy and smooth travels to and from all of the Premier Cups up to this point. So I suspect at some point they'll want to, move it around, maybe go back to Florida, maybe head out to the West Coast. But I thought this year went really smoothly as an exhibitor. And I hope to kind of see the event continue going forward.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes across on ESPN. Always love seeing it on network TV. And I think ESPN is essentially, the premier network for sports related content. So I think it's nothing but good for our sport. And I think that we'll see with it being on network TV that we continue to see increased excitement around our sport, which I think is obviously a good thing for the growth of the sport. So before we wrap up, let's go ahead and list out the winners from this year's AKC 2024 Premier Cup. We have in the 8-inch class, Andrea Samuels with Gabby, a Papillon. In the 12-inch class, Cynthia Horner with Nimble, an All-American. In the 16-inch class, as you mentioned, we had Jada Sawney with Zula, a Border Collie. In the 20-inch class, Juliana Munden with Border Collie Fusion. And in the 24-inch class, Rachel Evers with Gator, who actually came in the preferred class and is a Labrador Retriever. So congratulations to all of this year's winners. And that's it for this week's podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors, St. Rocco's Treats and hititboard.com. Check out the Teeter Teach It, only at hititboard.com. The Teeter Teach It is an easy-to-use tool that controls the amount of tip on your teeter so you can introduce motion to your dog in a gradual way. Go to hititboard.com for the new Teeter Teach It and other training tools and toys. Use discount code BDA10 to get 10% off your order. That's hititboard.com. Happy training.
Thank you for listening to Bad Dog Agility. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, updates, and links to all our socials, just check out our website, www.baddogagility.com. If you haven't already signed up for our email subscription, we would love to have you join the BDA community. Until next time, take care.